What if you could live in a beautiful French city with a branch of Paris's famous Centre Pompidou? Direct trains to 3 countries and surprisingly affordable real estate. You may have never heard of or considered Metz, but after this video, you may be adding it to your list. I'm Susie, I'm American, and I've been living in France since 2008. This November weekend, I'm in Metz to try to get an idea of what living here would be like. The transportation, the healthcare, the walkability, the real estate market, and yes, the proximity to Luxembourg. Oh, and it just happens to be the opening weekend of their famous Christmas market. But before we get started, just a reminder that you can sign up for my email newsletter in which I share more about life in France by scanning the QR code here or by clicking on the link in the video description below. All right, let's explore Metz. To start, a little background. Metz is in the Grand Est region and is the third largest city in its region behind Strasbourg and Reims and has a population of about 122,000 people. It's the prefecture of the Moselle département, number 57, which is why the postal code is 57,000 and why the license plates have 57s on them. And a little note on pronunciation, it's Metz, so it rhymes with yes. I had never been to Metz before, and when we arrived in the historic city center, what immediately struck us was the yellow color. The city is built from pierre de Jaumont, a local limestone that gives the older parts of the city a warm golden glow, especially when the sun is shining on it. I was immediately charmed. But then you turn a corner into the Imperial Quarter, and the style of architecture and colors change. This area was built by the Germans following the Franco-Prussian War during the annexation of the Moselle département between 1871 and 1918. You see massive buildings like the former Imperial Bank, now the Chamber of Commerce, built in this reddish sandstone. This layered French and German identity gives Metz a very unique personality. In terms of rankings, on the website Ville de Rêve, which ranks French cities and towns based on a wide range of criteria, Metz ranks 61st overall. That might not sound impressive until you realize it's ahead of cities like Nîmes, Lyon, and Cannes. In another ranking by real estate company Arthur Lloyd, Metz came in 7th among medium-sized cities for business and quality of life. Now let's talk about getting around. The public transport system is called Le Met, and it includes a rapid bus transit system called Métis. Some bus lines have dedicated lanes and elevated platforms, and honestly feel like a combination of a bus and a tram. I did notice the platforms can be tricky. I saw a woman struggling with a stroller, for example. As viewers of this channel will know, I have a very soft spot in my heart for trams, and it was bittersweet to find this postcard of streetcars in Metz from before the First World War. There's nothing equivalent anymore, but I made a pilgrimage to the place in the postcard nonetheless, and I assure you, even without the streetcars, it was absolutely stunning. We downloaded the Le Met app to use while we were in Metz, and it was very easy and intuitive. When we were there, the entire transportation system was free since the Christmas markets were going on, which was brilliant. But normally a ticket is about €1.70 or €1.90. There are these electric shuttles as well, all over the place. We only have one of these in Dijon. It's free, and I figured out that 2 of the lines in Metz, the N81 and the N83, are always free, whereas I think you have to pay to ride the others, but I'm not entirely sure, so just be careful. For those who want to bike but don't have their own bikes, there are these long-term Velomet rental bikes and the new electric Graulib bikes that you need a €10 per month subscription to use. I noticed a lot of dedicated bike lanes, and the bike infrastructure seemed better in downtown Metz than here in Dijon where I live. But in the National Bikeability Survey, Metz received a D rating, rather favorable, which is the same as Dijon, which I found to be a little perplexing. In terms of trains, the train station itself is stunning. It was built under German Emperor Wilhelm II. From here, you can get to Paris in an hour and 25 minutes for €87 if you buy your ticket the day of your departure, or to the Luxembourg high-paying job market in under an hour for less than 10 euros. There are also trains to Saarbrücken in Germany, which take an hour and 10 minutes for about 20 euros. And there is a bus to a TGV, which will take you to Roissy-Charles de Gaulle, the international airport, for 57 euros in about 2 hours. So that's a great convenience that it's so relatively easy to get to Roissy-Charles de Gaulle. And there's also an airport in Saarbrücken. We saw posters around town of Ryanair advertising flights from Saarbrücken to vacation spots in Spain and Italy. And I saw that they have other destinations in Germany leaving from that airport as well. And just 30 minutes away by car, there's also the Lorraine airport, which looks like it's mainly charter flights operated by tour companies. In the summer, I see there's one flight a week to each Athens, Constantine, and Crete, for example. But I did also see frequent year-round trips to Algiers on the commercial airline Air Algérie. Ville de Rêve had mentioned that traffic could be tricky in Metz, so I checked the TomTom traffic index, and Metz ranks 21st in France for congestion. We didn't really notice anything, but we were mainly in the historic city center on a weekend in November. We did drive a bit outside the city center, notably to find the hospital, and that's when I realized that beyond the historical city center, the city seemed quite spread out. Speaking of driving, if you don't have a car, there's always Cities, the French car sharing program that has cars here in Metz that you can borrow if you have a subscription. I tried Cities out here in my city a little while ago, and I talked about my experience in a video that I will link to here. All right, let's talk about Luxembourg a little bit more in detail. As I mentioned before, Metz is only about 50 minutes by train from Luxembourg City, or an hour and 35 minutes by car, which seems a long way to commute until you start to research the economic reasons why someone would commute so far. And I found some data showing that really quite a lot of people do it. As of 2021, about 103,000 workers who lived in the Grand Est region of France commuted to Luxembourg. These frontaliers, cross-border workers, earn Luxembourg salaries, which are significantly higher than in France. This report just came out last week, and it was published by l'INSEE, the National Institute of Statistics and Economic Studies, and contains some jaw-dropping stats. Cross-border workers who go to work in Luxembourg earned 65% more than workers who stay in France. The report details which industries these workers are in and how much the earnings gap is with those who stay in France. And then they also show how cadre, or white-collar workers, come mainly from the red areas, including the, quote, center of Metz, unquote. And another article from last year also provides more data. It says in 10 years, the number of French frontaliers going to work in Luxembourg is up 55%. And then we have this map, which shows the flows of people, and we see this relatively thick arrow representing thousands of workers going from Metz to Luxembourg every day, 17% of them on the train, apparently. So what about real estate? Sometimes when a city is close to a wealthy hub like Luxembourg, housing prices explode. Just look at housing prices in Annecy near Geneva. I was there a few weeks ago, and I was shocked by how expensive real estate was there. But Metz is different. I found listings that shocked me in a good way because they were still relatively affordable. Look at these listings. Apartment for sale, 358,000 euros, 129 square meters. That breaks down to 2,841 euros per square meter. Apartment for sale, 350,000 euros, 160 square meters. That breaks down to 2,187 euros per square meter. House for sale, 378,000 euros, 125 square meters. That breaks down to 3,024 euros per square meter. Apartment for sale, 249,000 euros, 114 meters squared. That breaks down to 2,184 euros per square meter. And just to compare, to give you an idea of what rental properties look like, I found this apartment for rent in Metz, 83 square meters for 910 euros per month. And these prices are relatively in line with what we see on meilleuragent.com in terms of average price per square meter in Metz. The average price for an apartment being 2,379 euros per square meter, and for a house, 2,459 euros per square meter. In fact, Metz is one of the major French cities where real estate prices have increased the least over the last 20 years. Compared to the sticker shock of other cities, Metz remains incredibly affordable. This article ranks the cities where prices increased the most to least over the past 20 years, and you'll need to scroll down to the bottom to find Metz. In terms of walkability, the city center feels very walkable. We walked all over the historic city center several times. It's easy and pleasant to do. I felt very safe and protected from car traffic. In fact, in this survey of walkability, Metz scored a D, somewhat favorable, which seems low to me here too. I found this old image of Place Saint-Jacques packed with parked cars. Now it's one of the main squares that was decked out for the Christmas market when we were there. It's so much nicer to be able to use this space this way than as a parking lot. The air quality is decent too, ranked 23rd in France out of 68 French cities in this ranking, which is the European City Air Quality Viewer. In terms of weather, I can tell you it was cold when we were there. Granted, we were there in late November, so that's just par for the course in this part of France at this time of year. It seems unfair to even include Nice in this table. We can't compete up here in terms of sunniness or temperatures, but here you go, no surprise. It's cold in the winter, there are storms, orage, and fog, brouillard, and there's a fair amount of rain and even some snow. In fact, I think it was kind of snowing when we were leaving on Sunday afternoon. In terms of healthcare, I unfortunately don't have much more information aside from this same old map I consult to compare every département every time I do one of these videos. La Moselle, the department indicated here by the number 57, where Metz is located, is at or slightly below average in terms of density of GPs and medical specialists. I saw signs for dentists and doctors and just randomly looked up 3 of the cardiologists on Doctolib, the online appointment making platform, just to see if they took appointments online and if so, how long it would take to make an appointment. 2 of the cardiologists didn't take appointments on Doctolib, and then this third one, Dr. Verin, does take appointments, and the first available appointment is for May 4th, 2026. Today is December 1st, 2025. 5 months. Just one data point, but there you go. We did drive up to the main public hospital, the regional hospital center of Metz-Thionville, which seemed very far outside of town, but was modern, and the Métis BRT line went all the way out there, which I took as a good sign in terms of accessibility. In terms of education, Metz is home to one of the campuses of the Université de Lorraine, with over 20,000 students in Metz. The university offers programs in engineering, sciences, art, law, economics, and more. The campus we filmed looked modern and well-equipped and was right by the historic city center. In rankings of student cities, Metz came in either 28th or 32nd, depending on the survey, solidly mid-tier. Students appreciate the affordability compared to larger cities, the transportation connections, and the manageable size. In terms of green space, walking around, I certainly had the impression that there was plenty of it. Easy access to nature, the river walks, the rivers, plural, the parks that I'd heard of that we didn't even have time to visit. It occurred to me that I should see if there was a sort of ranking, and there is, and lo and behold, Metz ranks 5th. Culturally, Metz punches way above its weight. Of course, there's the Centre Pompidou-Metz, and since the famous Paris Centre Pompidou is closed until at least 2030 for renovations, this is the place to get your modern art fix. Vestiges of medieval times are still visible. There's the Porte des Allemands and the Gothic Cathédrale Saint-Étienne, which was absolutely breathtaking both inside and outside. We heard multiple languages when we were walking around. We saw tour buses from Germany bringing tourists in to visit the Christmas market, and I heard people speaking Spanish during breakfast at our hotel. The covered market reminded me a bit of Quincy Market in Boston, and the food vendors were still bustling. People were lining up to buy meat even after lunchtime on Saturday afternoon. So even if you're not in the market for a place to settle down, Metz at least deserves a little visit. And don't just take it from me. Look at this recent headline from The Telegraph. And for those of you who are curious about where we stayed and what we eat, for our trip we stayed at the Mercure Grand Hôtel Metz Centre Cathédrale. The location was perfect, right in the center, and the hotel was already decked out for Christmas, like the rest of the downtown area actually.
We had no idea the Christmas festivities would have already started. They started a week earlier in Metz than here in Dijon, but it was quite a treat to walk around both during the day and at night to see some of the Christmas decorations and attractions. For food, one would obviously assume that we went for quiche Lorraine or that we went to Le Salon Bleu for a famous Mirabelle plum tart. But hélas, no, next time maybe. On Saturday, we had an incredible lunch at Humet, the restaurant inside the Pompidou. And for drinks on Saturday evening, we checked out the Maison de Montfred, designed to look like a house plunked down on the top of a new hotel, the Maison Heller, designed by Philip Stark. The hotel designed by Stark is in a whole new vibrant neighborhood that also contained the Centre Pompidou and an expo center, and a big new shopping center called Muse. We have a new neighborhood here in Dijon accessible by tram, but that's just filled with offices and chain restaurants, a place I would never intentionally go to on a Saturday night to wander around, whereas this new neighborhood in Metz was hopping on Saturday evening when we were there. And for dinner, we made our way back into the historic city center, and we had potatoes stuffed with Munster at what seemed like a popular local place called 100 patates, or 100 potatoes. Plus, a special shout out to the city for its gorgeous holiday decorations. We feel really lucky to have inadvertently decided to go the weekend the Christmas festivities were starting. I had no idea. I'm sure it added something to the charm of the city and the good mood we found most people to be in.
Okay, so does Metz deserve more attention? Absolutely. Even my skeptical husband was impressed. It offers authentic city life, beautiful architecture, the Centre Pompidou, excellent transportation, and affordable real estate. Plus that blend of French and German influences, which gives it a unique character. Making these city visit videos has been such a gift, giving me the chance to explore cities like Metz that I've never had a chance to spend much time in before. I'll link here to the playlist of the videos of the other French cities that we've visited recently if you want to check out more. Where should we explore next? I'm keeping a list of all of your suggestions. I'm still thinking maybe Reims, but also hoping that maybe I can squeeze in another visit of another city a bit closer to home, maybe Beaune or Dole. Let me know what you think in the comments below. There are just so many cool places to explore. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, you could subscribe, or again, remember to click on the link in the video description below to sign up for my email newsletter. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, à bientôt!